Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by Jesse Preston, former college football player and current college football sicko and current also college football dynasty mode commissioner. He wears many hats. Jesse Preston, as well as Jacob Rhodes, fellow Fantasy Guides contributor. Welcome in, gentlemen. Today we are here to talk about some running back tiers. We are right on the brink of an excellent fantasy season. And now is the time where Jacob and I, who are constantly making our ranks, along with Steve, who couldn't join us tonight, we have to finally stop procrastinating. We actually have to put real ranks together, and those ranks are going to come together with tiers. So after running through a brief bit of news, we're going to hop right into tiers, talk about who we like in what groupings, rankings at large, as running backs. Man, there's always a league winner each year, and we're going to see if we can't find them with the way we group our tiers. But firstly, gentlemen, how are we feeling? Jesse, you feeling nice and full after a nice dinner?
I am. I'm feeling good. There's a really bad storm going on, so if you hear any cracks of lightning or thunder in the background, that's because we just got hit really hard. But it's great because half of Colorado is like on fire right now. So rain is really welcomed in the Front Range here.
Jeez. Well, if I see something catch fire behind you or your house flood, I will let you know. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm good. I don't have anything all that exciting to share like Jesse does, but doing good. Excited to get into some rankings talk.
Absolutely love it. You're a Browns fan. Your life already has tragedy immersed in it. So,
that's right.
As I said, we're going to be going into tiers in a little bit, but let's begin with some news. And man, we were just talking before the pod, and Brandin Aiyuk news. It is prime prima donna. I think Brandin Aiyuk's been talking with Antonio Brown or somebody because he is running the news cycle right now in a way you rarely see. So just to kind of recap before these gentlemen give their points of view, Brandin Aiyuk this entire offseason, he's been talking about, I wanted a contract extension. And it didn't sound like he was going to get what he wants. The Niner kind of told him to shove it, and then around draft season that kind of went away. Now it's come back, and then it went away, and then he's sending pics with Jaden Daniels on FaceTime, and he says that he has the Commander's playbook. So now Brandin Aiyuk is going to get traded is what it sounds like. Christian McCaffrey even came out and referred to Brandin Aiyuk as his former teammate in an interview. Oopsie, Mr. CMC, don't do that. Mr. John Lynch couldn't have loved that. So now it sounds like Brandin Aiyuk is going to get traded. It sounds like the Browns and the Pats, maybe, Jacob, are the lead people to get him in a trade. What did you just mention changed in his trade rumors?
Yeah, so about 5 minutes before we started recording, it was reported that the Patriots pulled out of the sweepstakes. So that just leaves the Browns as far as we know, which apparently they have a deal done is the latest rumor, but they're waiting for one final person's approval before they pull the trigger. I don't know. I think we get an answer tomorrow, which is exciting, but there are a lot of fantasy implications depending on where he goes and who's involved in the trade and all that good stuff.
Hopefully we get to react to it live on the pod because that'd be so exciting because apparently that'll just happen. And I just saw Pat's news that said they're going all in. They're pursuing. They are like the team to beat out in this, but whatever. Jesse, we got to think fantasy here, all right? So if Brandin Aiyuk gets traded, where do you want to see him land the most? Would you rather him be a Pat, a Brown, or dear God, just hoping anywhere else?
Well, I think back to Steven. He did a post where I don't know if you guys remember this a couple weeks ago, where it was the perspective, whatever you'd say that, number one target guy for each NFL team. And I don't even know if I knew who the Patriots' number one receiver was listed on that list. Like, the Patriots really, really need it. They have no one else. I think he would instantly be the guy there. Whereas if he goes to the Browns, I'm kind of with Jacob. I like Amari Cooper. I still think that he's a great wide receiver. I think it would be a great football move for the Browns. But I am not a big Aiyuk guy. He's going really high right now, right? I mean, he's a tier 3 wide receiver. Everybody likes him. I have other receivers in that tier I like more. So I haven't really been on the Aiyuk bandwagon. So I didn't hit unsubscribe when you guys were texting back and forth 33 times about the Aiyuk stuff.
As we always do.
But it was close because I don't know that he's a target of mine. If he went to the Patriots, I do think, I think that targets are king, and he would get so much because they have nothing. But if he's out of the sweepstakes there, it sounds like the Browns. I don't know that it's much different maybe than where he was with the 49ers. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, so Pats would be more the most target volume he could get, but also the worst quarterback situation he could land in.
Right.
If Cooper is on the Browns when he gets traded there, and Cooper isn't involved in the trade going back to San Fran, that's kind of ugly for fantasy for both of those guys. They're both probably low-end wide receiver 2s. You get some peak weeks, but you probably have some inconsistencies on that team. Watson would be even better as a sleeper that Steve mentioned last week, but I know people are still going to be out on him no matter what. The bigger thing to me is what it does to San Fran and who it impacts the most there. And I think it's actually George Kittle, of all guys. I think Kittle gets a huge bump with Aiyuk leaving.
Love it.
I'm curious who you guys think is the biggest benefactor back there.
I think it's tough. I think Kittle is a huge benefactor. I don't think I'm going to single out any one benefactor other than possibly Ricky Pearsall if he can stop getting hurt, because he's going to be on an injury block. I'll just say it now. Ricky Pearsall is dealing with some shoulder injury. It'd be the biggest for him because it just clears up a spot for him to be on the field. That would be huge. He's currently not projected. He's the 4th wide receiver on their depth chart, and he might go down because it sounds like if New England somehow comes back in and lands Aiyuk, that they're sitting Kendrick Bourne, which will still push down Ricky Pearsall. So if nobody comes back, no receiver comes back, Ricky Pearsall a big up, Deebo Samuel, if Christian McCaffrey goes down, this is Deebo's offense again. Go back to when Deebo was, I believe, the wide receiver 2 overall, we would be getting back to that offense. If Aiyuk is gone and CMC, who is a aged, hurt running back, goes down, I'm going to move Deebo up, not because he's guaranteed anything, but the upside is top 5. And that has to be regarded. And I think the same with George Kittle. He's got a huge upside.
I would argue that Deebo has more injury concern at this point than McCaffrey, but...
Oh, absolutely.
I get your point with him being the number 1 wide receiver there. I just think the type of targets he demands is different than what Kittle could demand if they finally let him run more routes instead of blocking all the time.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that. That would give us one more tight end that I think could be in that tight end 1 conversation, because we know Kittle does. He has week winning upside, but it's the consistencies that have just always been killer.
Yeah. It would absolutely, I think, bring all that offense up. Aiyuk, I'm kind of pushing down my rankings at this point in the offseason. Too late to really learn the offense you're going to. Speaking of 49ers and injuries and CMC, in case he gets hurt, well, I kind of brought it up because CMC is currently dealing with a calf strain, won't participate in preseason. When you're Christian McCaffrey, when you just got a giant extension, you don't have to participate in anything you don't want to, and it's not going to concern me in a crazy way. So I'm not too worried about this.
Yeah.
So just going to kind of jump past that one, bring you this one. Jacob, Puka Nacua, your boy, your guy out here, is considered week to week with a knee injury. And I'm going to combine this with rumors that Kupp is, quote, fully back and the offense runs through Kupp. Are you at all worried about Puka Nacua, considering Jesse has kind of been beating this drum of, man, Puka might not be that guy for the LA Rams? Jacob, are you concerned?
I think we saw him very much be that guy for the LA Rams already, so I think that's weird to say he's not the guy. But I get your point. I think both guys are going to feast in this offense. I don't think the injury concerns right now are serious with what we're being told so far. Definitely worth monitoring. Things change quickly, but for now, I don't think it's something worth being concerned about, but I do hope it drops his ADP a little bit because I'll buy the dip. But that's about it. I'm not super concerned about it with these injuries. I think it's mostly a way for these teams to keep these guys off the field during the preseason.
Jesse, I know you're not victory lapping injury, but do you feel at least validated about the Kupp runs through the offense runs through Kupp thing?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I do want to just defend myself a little that I'm more pro Kupp than anti.
That's fair.
Puka, if
That's
that
fair.
makes sense. I just think Kupp's value is still very high. I think that relationship with Stafford is still really strong. This may be the last year, right, that you really get that value out of him. So, but I do think, yeah, and I don't want to see guys hurt ever, but I think that I think Cooper Kupp is still going to be the man, and I think both guys can eat. To just agree with what Jake said,
Yeah.
And I don't see this being a huge thing with Puka. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, last year was the first year in a while we hadn't seen two receivers from the same team finish in the top 12 to 15. So that's due again. I think if you're going to bet on any duo to do it, that'd be mine right there.
I think so too. I'm right with you.
Absolutely. And to blitz with the rest of this, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I actually just moved Cooper Kupp up to my wide receiver 15 in reaction to the Cooper Kupp offense hype news. So absolutely in on this. The rest of the news, going through a quick, Jonathan Brooks looks like he'll miss the preseason and be ready by week 3 or 4. That's not a surprise. I'm fully expecting this. I hear people reacting as if they weren't. Buddy, he tore his ACL midway through last season. He'll come back. He'll be fine. Thank Breece Hall last year. Then additionally, DeAndre Hopkins. This is a big concern for me. Out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury. You do not want to see that from a 31-year-old wide receiver who's catching passes from a questionable young quarterback and added Calvin Ridley in the offense. That's not good things. Training camp battles right now. Sam Darnold listed as the QB1 on the depth chart. So Sam Darnold hype season is officially back. However, I'm also seeing contradictory reports that J.J. McCarthy is improved and is firmly in this competition. So we know nothing. Additionally, Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard are listed as co-starters. I think this is something we've been kind of keying in on. Both guys are going to touch the ball a lot. We'll see who turns out to be a better value. And lastly, Jesse's guy, Chase Brown, is, quote, taking the majority of reps at running back with the first team. I don't know how to read that. I don't know if that means his reps at running back are almost all with the first team, or he's getting all of the first team reps. Like, there's 100 first team reps and he's getting 75 of them, or all 50 of his first team reps are with the first. I don't know. But
Zach Moss was listed as the RB1, so
there you go. Exactly that,
Clear
guys.
as
We
mud.
know nothing.
But depth charts, remember last year this time, Cordero Patterson was the Falcons' running back 1, Algier was the running back 2, and Bijan was listed as the reserve running back for that team. So these depth charts mean nothing. This is all preseason news. It's fun stuff.
Bo Nix is listed under Zach Wilson on the Denver Broncos depth chart. So
And
if that
Jarrett
tells
Stidham.
you anything, it means nothing right now. But if you want to see a good tweet, go find my Twitter. I'm tweeting about guys who are starters in the NFL but aren't being drafted as such. Go find you some values there. Finally, gentlemen, let's talk about some running backs. Let's talk about some tiers. And what I mean by tiers is not the ones we'll shed inevitably whenever we draft some of these guys and they get hurt and we lose and we get sad. No, tiers as in groups of running backs that are ranked in a similar way. Putting running backs and various players into tiers when you're drafting is incredibly important. All right, when you see a list of rankings, it's deceiving. All right, because you're going to have some running backs that are ranked one spot apart, but that does not mean that you think of them very similarly. There may be a bigger gap between your running back 5 and your running back 6 than there is between your running back 7 and your running back 8. So it's going to be very variable, and that's what we call a tier. And we're going to have bigger-ish tiers. We're going to go through about the top 24, 25-ish guys, have probably 5 or 6 tiers by the end of this, and we're going to build them with you guys. We didn't have tiers built right now, at least not through the way Jacob and I do our rankings. With Steven, it's just been kind of rankings just by the number, and naturally there are some tiers, but we want to formalize those to let you know which guys you actually need to jump on. If this guy is gone, let's say the RB15 flies off the board, you might need to know in your draft, hey, I got to get one because the RB16 actually should be taken 2 rounds later. So we're going to try to get into that now and clarify a lot of that ahead of time, and I created some tiers. That's how it's kind of structured. I made some tiers. Jacob and Jesse are set to tear them apart, or perhaps tell me that they're absolutely perfect and that I'm amazing and there's nothing wrong, and that they really like my new fat head Jonathan Taylor in the background because I just got that up. Thank you,
great.
Fathead, for sponsoring with or promoting with Fantasy Guides. Oh, look at him back there.
It does look good.
Back there. He's amazing.
Anyway, Jake has the elf. That's a
I do have
fat
the
head
elf.
too, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I've got this really cool jacked NFL running back, and
Anyways.
Jacob has a terrifying elf in the background of his.
I fully agree with Andrew's tier 1 if we want.
Let's get there now, indeed. Tier 1. I named them because that's what I do. I come up with random names for things. So go back to the list in the offseason when I was comparing wide receivers to chocolate bars or something. It's what I do. Tier 1, let me know if you guys agree with it. It's called Tier 1, the Christian McCaffrey tier. And in it is Christian McCaffrey and no one else. Gentlemen, do you agree with my ranking of Christian McCaffrey, Tier 1, 101? He's on an island of his own.
Yeah, I don't think we have to spend a lot of time here.
We don't.
I think it's mostly just to pick on you for the name because you've been very original. Like, if you listened to the chocolate bar episode, I thought you did an amazing job of making every one of those players, also equal a candy. You did a great job there. But yeah, the Christian McCaffrey tier, I don't think there's a lot to say. Jacob, what do you think?
I actually called it the CMC tier too, and I've been calling it that for a couple years now. But yeah, I'm with you on this one. I don't think there's much to talk about here. He was so much better than every other running back last year. There's no reason to not have him ranked number 1. If you think there's a couple other guys that can finish as the running back 1, that's fine. If that happens, I don't think that means that McCaffrey's going to be bad unless he just gets hurt. But all these guys have injury risk. It's fantasy football. That's what we're doing.
You guys combined efficiency, good offense, and incredible volume, and that's Christian McCaffrey. Quick fun stat because I found it. The difference between Christian McCaffrey's points per game and the third best running back in points per game is the same difference as the RB3 to the RB33. Christian McCaffrey's in a league of his own. There is no question. So that brings us to Tier 2, as this is where the questions start developing. And this is probably where your questions will start developing on why I named it this. All right, got creative with this one. Tier 2, only got a couple guys in it. It is called Like If a Cow Could Fly, but in a good way. And here's what I mean by that. I have Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson in this tier. And I thought to myself, like, what separates these guys in my mind from the guys below them? And not that they're, like, fat or have 5 stomachs or something. I just thought, man, these guys are like bulls. Like, big, strong guys who are incredible on the ground, but also they can get some stuff done through the air, thus the wings on the cow. They're going to catch some passes, and they're going to run well on the ground. And this is kind of where that ends, where I know they're going to catch passes, and I know they're going to get a lot of work on the ground. So that's why I have Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson in this next tier on their own, right behind CMC. Jacob, firstly, name. Am I on par? Secondly, do you agree with the players in it?
Plead the fifth on the name. I do agree with the players. I am right there with you with Bijan and Breece. They are both the two guys that I think could usurp Mr. Christian McCaffrey. I don't think there's another guy that could, so those two for me are clearly that next tier. They're in that kind of group of their own. I think if those are the guys you prefer to take over McCaffrey even this year, I can't fault you too much. I think it's a little crazy, but I do see major upside for both of them. Bijan with the Rams offense coming over with an improved quarterback, just completely improved offensive scheme, should give him a lot more scoring opportunities. And with Breece, he was already top 5 last year. Yeah, I finished 2 last year if you look weeks 1 through 18. Without Aaron Rodgers at all, if Aaron Rodgers just plays half the games, that's got to give him a better chance to be good. He had 1 carry inside the 5-yard line last year. That can't happen again. There's no way. 1 carry inside the 5-yard line for the running back too was just absurd. So his ceiling is very high. Both of those guys' ceilings are very high. I love them in tier 2.
Jesse, what are your thoughts here? And firstly, again, I feel like I cooked on this name.
Because they're a bull. You said it's like they bring a lot, yeah, and they can fly, like they're fast. Is that if a bull
Bell
can
cows.
fly? Bell cow.
Oh, I should have gone bell cow route. Nope, I just thought flying cow.
I'll give it to you. It's fine.
Yes.
I am much easier. I don't know if you guys ever listened back when we had Casey, but I was always the guy laughing at Casey's jokes while Steven was rolling his eyes. I'm pretty easy usually. So
Let's go.
I love Bijan. I think that he could, like Jacob alluded to, these two players could definitely push CMC. Bijan's the one I'm the most excited about. Did you guys happen to catch any of the Madden ratings release?
They're so bad.
They were bad. They're awful.
So they have the I think the worst one, the most egregious of all of them, is the 22nd best running back is Bijan Robinson at an 82.
What?
Gross.
How-
I mean,
like-
Gabe Davis and Puka had the same overall. So
How would you make him the 22nd best running back? And it kind of boggles my mind how they have these ratings set up. And then even like Jonathan Taylor, an 87. Jonathan Taylor's an 87 running back. How can he not be in the 90s? So I got some issues there with Bijan, and Breece Hall too is an 84. So both those guys that could be two of the best fantasy running backs in the entire world are in the low 80s for Madden ratings. I can't get behind that, but I can get behind these guys being in their own tier above this next group. And I do think Bijan's the one I'm the most excited about, because I think we only really saw just a sample of how electric he can be.
yeah,
Breece Hall, I'm not talking crap about Breece Hall, but Bijan has been more of an electric player over the course of his career. Breece Hall was a very good college running back. Bijan was something totally special on top of that. So I just think that we could see Bijan really take a step forward, knowing that he's still a young guy. He was dealing with a really terrible offense that wasn't getting him the ball. I think we could see him really take off this year.
maybe for what it's worth too, Bijan, maybe out of any of the guys we're going to talk about, the best injury history.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something worth noting. He's stayed healthy with a lot of volume. I don't see any reason to I don't have any reason to think that's not going to continue. It changes quickly for running backs, but if that's how you're splitting hairs, I think that's a fine way to lean towards Bijan.
Yeah, I think I even said this whenever we were looking at prospects, at Breece Hall as a prospect and Bijan as a prospect. I like Breece Hall better as a prospect. I like Breece Hall better as a running back. I just like guys who get north-south quicker. Bijan's more jitterback, a little more Saquon Barkley, but to each their own. And these guys are both phenomenal in great situations. The only thing you can hang on them is, will their offenses actually be that great? Like, we don't know. We assume. We are projecting. I have a lot of my ranks based on saying, yes, the New York Jets will be at least decent, and the Falcons should be a good offense. And if I'm wrong, that's where these guys are going to hurt you and not be able to ascend to that Christian McCaffrey-esque tier. They'll still be top 10 NFL running backs, though, or fantasy football running backs at that. So, no adjustments being made here to my Tier 1, Tier 2. I'm getting a clean run through so far. We're making it through, baby, and we're on to Tier 3. In this one, I more elegantly named Tier 3, True Love or True Heartbreak. Because these are guys, and I'll list them off. When you draft them, these are dudes who I think can still push up into that almost Christian McCaffrey air or that near RB1 air with the right luck. Now, we can't really project it. It's going to be hard to predict, but they could go that high. They could win your season. However, I could make a scenario where any one of these guys is a fringe RB2 just off of some bad luck or something, and they absolutely ruin you because you had to take them in the second or third round. And these guys are Saquon Barkley of the Eagles, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Lions, Jonathan Taylor for the Colts, Derrick Henry now of the Ravens, Travis Etienne on the Jags, Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins, Kyron Williams of the LA Rams, and Isaiah Pacheco of the Chiefs. So, gentlemen, this is a much meatier tier. 8 teams here. Jesse, I'll let you kick this one off. Does anyone jump off the page to you as they do not belong here whatsoever?
Not necessarily. I fully understand the reasoning behind all of those players. I am personally a little leery of Achane and Williams in that grouping. I think the rest of those guys are very solid. Jahmyr Gibbs and Travis Etienne are two of my favorite running backs in the NFL, especially for fantasy. Jahmyr Gibbs, same thing. He was special. Think about what you can do now with the whole offseason of working with the program and everything else. And then Etienne, another year removed from that injury. He was a my guy last year. I think that offense has improved. Achane, I think it's just I just need a little bit more prove it before I'm going to invest that kind of draft capital in a redraft league on a player. And then Kyron Williams, I love the player. I was one of the only guys that thought he was a great college player coming out. I just think that I've said this in previous podcasts. I think everything went right for him. So I think it's going to be hard for him to reach the level that he's kind of being projected. And he's dropped a little bit if you think about the offseason. In the offseason, man, people had him as a top 5 dynasty asset and things like that. He's dropped down a little bit. But I do think Corum is going to cut into his workload a little bit. And he has to stay healthy. And then the Rams do weird things with running backs. He might be selling cell phones by the end of the season. We don't know what happens with these guys. So I am personally avoiding 2 players in this tier and targeting 2 players. My 2 targets would be Gibbs and Etienne. My 2 avoids would be Achane and Williams. Nothing against those players, but just a little bit more volatile, I think.
Jacob, what are your thoughts? He came right at your boy Williams.
Yeah, he came at a lot of stuff there. So this is where I have some disagreements with tiers. I have 3 different tiers in this group of guys.
Oh,
wow,
my.
just out of this
Wow.
8, you'd break it down into 3 ways.
I would break it down into 3 different ways.
Wow.
Yes.
Fill us in.
Yeah. So I think Gibbs and Kyron would be that next tier of guys. Those 2 guys, I think, they slightly separate themselves from the rest of those guys with volume and receiving upside and with their offenses. I think I trust the volume. I'm not as worried about Kyron because he could lose 15% of his insane snap share from last year to Corum and whoever else and still be top 10 in the league in snaps. So I think the volume is going to be just fine, even if it's a decrease in percentage from last year. I'm just not as worried. And simply put, he's the consensus running back 7 off the board. I think that is perfectly fine. I don't have any worries drafting him as the running back 7 off the board. So whether he's in this tier or in the other tier, like I mentioned, that's completely different, I guess. That second kind of group for me is Saquon, Etienne, and Achane, just with upside. And with Etienne, I feel like we're kind of like numb already to a guy that was the running back 3 last year. We're just like, whatever. He was the running back 3. Cool. We don't like Jacksonville, so we're not drafting Travis Etienne high. But that guy has already proven it. There's nothing that's changed in that running back room. Tank Bigsby is awful and is still sharing kind of backup duties there. I just don't have any reason not to like Travis Etienne. Barkley's in the best offense he's ever been in. He's got the best offensive line he's ever had. The tush push should be less effective this year with Jason Kelsey gone, so I think he's still got touchdown upside. It's even with the push tush, he has got more touchdown upside in that offense than he did in New York. So that for me is just enough. And then Achane, we saw it last year. If we get a full 17 games out of that guy, he is going to be absolutely absurd, even when he's getting work taken away from him from Mostert. So those are how I split the first 2 up, and then the other 3 guys are in that next kind of tier of me of like, these are the beefy, get me the touchdowns, not going to be super flashy, but going to be super effective guys.
So you throw Henry, Taylor, and Pacheco in that final grouping.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I do. I have to throw out just a shout out to Steven. Just did a post about his favorite running backs in each round, and Derrick Henry is his favorite round 2 running back, and Achane is his favorite round 3 running back. So, those are 2 guys that he really likes in those areas. He thinks Derrick Henry could be ready for a kind of a generational season. My worry with Derrick Henry is I actually saw on Instagram the other day pretty sick highlight tape. If you ever want to watch it, watch him playing high school football. That talk about a man
55 carries.
Yeah, did you see that one too,
Yeah.
Jacob?
55 carries in a game.
55 carries in a game in high school, and then he, it's not like he shared a backfield at Alabama. He went to Alabama and then carried that backfield too. So the guy is getting older. That's a lot of wear and tear. If you watch him work out, you're like, okay, this guy is a total freak. He's going to be fine. But yeah, Steven very high on Derrick Henry. I know if he was here, he'd give a shout out to him. And yeah, I think we all agree if Achane stays healthy, he's a freak. He is so smooth, so fast. He's going to do damage, but he's got to stay healthy, got to stay on the field.
Let me say on Achane real quick.
Okay.
He's being drafted as the running back 11 on consensus ADP right now.
Yeah, it's not as much risk. So
I don't think there's as much risk involved there, and you're getting a lot of upside. So,
but if we're talking tiers here, your ADP doesn't matter. This is who would you take out of this group? Like, Who's
That's
like
the fun part about
said
tiers.
if I said I took Achan instead of Kyron, would you take your shoe off and throw it at me? Like would you freak out?
Not hard, no.
Mildly, just a toss, like
And
you idiot.
And we didn't talk a ton about Pacheco, which is interesting.
Oh, I'm loving Pacheco this year.
Yeah, he's just in such a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard for me to like him just watching him run. He looks like he's running so
Jeez.
hard. He's running so hard and going nowhere, as Casey used to put it.
It's effective.
Yeah, but I'm not avoiding Pacheco. It's interesting. It's an interesting tier for him to be in for sure. He's moved up in the world for sure.
That's why I split off the Taylor, Henry, Pacheco from those other 5 guys, just because their situations are just a little bit more peculiar than the other ones. With Taylor having AR taking touchdowns and Derrick Henry just being older, and Pacheco, as Jesse was just alluding to, they feel a little bit different to me than like Gibbs and Kyron and Saquon.
I want to throw out a quick fun fact. A couple of them, actually. One is Devon Achan. Watch him run and how majestic he is, and then watch Isaiah Pacheco beat the ground as if it did something bad to his family. Those guys both ran 4.3s. Like, they're in the same class of speed.
Oh, man.
As if somehow that makes sense. And then secondly, I don't know what to do with Derrick Henry. So obviously I made this tier, and I didn't want Derrick Henry in it, but I also refused to put him in the tier behind it, so I didn't know what to do with it. Like, do I make a Derrick Henry tier? Because he's 30. Guys, everyone else in that tier I mentioned, the next oldest is Saquon at 27, and then the next oldest from Saquon is 25-year-old Jonathan Taylor and Etienne. He is so old. Like, this isn't just me being me and a hater of the elderly. Sorry, Grandma, but, like, he's significantly older. So what do you guys think of that? Would you move Henry out of this tier? Would that be a consideration?
I wouldn't. He hasn't had a single-digit rushing touchdown season since 2017.
Ah, but he's 30.
And this is going to be the best
running back
situation
8 last year on the terrible Titans.
His age
And
starts
this
with
is
a 3.
the best situation
It started
he's
with
ever
a
been in.
3 almost last year.
Almost. Okay, so we got to come around on this because Jacob wants to break this into 3 tiers. I obviously have this as 1. So we've got to start patching this up so that we can create some tiers so that we can actually have this list going. So you for sure want to move like Isaiah Pacheco, Jonathan Taylor, and all right, we talked about this on our mock draft. Jacob, what is the difference between Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley?
The offense. I think the Eagles' offense is just more reliable, and their offensive line's better right now. I'm sorry. AR played 3.5 games last year. We still don't know. We know he's gonna run, and we know he's gonna run the ball into the end zone. But
Which doesn't necessarily help Taylor either.
No,
right?
there's just.
But why is it different than Saquon? Like, I get the offense talk because maybe you like the Philadelphia offense more, but the Eagles' offense scored the 7th most points last year at 24.6, and the Colts are right behind them at 23.3 at 11th overall with Gardner Minshew, and not a full season of Jonathan Taylor.
Receiving volume, I guess, would be my counter argument to that. I trust Barkley to catch more passes than Jonathan Taylor.
Do you think Jalen Hurts is going to considerabily dump off more volumes?
I think
More than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, more than Richardson. I would agree with him on that.
So
But
you
it's
have
not-
Jesse? Would you put him in a tier lower?
Which one?
Would you
Taylor?
put Taylor in a tier, not just below, but he's significantly different than Saquon Barkley?
No, I mean, I told you I liked your tier, and then
Excellent.
Jacob came with a knife and he put 3 additional hash marks in here. And
I don't. You think Pacheco and Gibbs belong in the same tier? I
Yes.
like Pacheco.
No, I guess I can maybe hear that part.
I don't think Taylor belongs in the same tier.
But
as
I
Gibbs
also
either.
told you I'm avoiding the guy that you had in the top tier with Gibbs.
Yeah,
So that's where it gets a little dicey. So there's decisions to be made there for sure. But
This is
I
why
think
tiers are fun.
Yeah.
Because you pick who you like. We
Right.
can sort these guys by where it's going to make a big difference on your fantasy team, but you can pick which guys that you like because we all have our preferences on players. No matter how hard we try to be not biased and not like our teams and not like a player we drafted as a rookie a couple years ago or whatever it may be. Yeah,
I have zero
Jonathan
bias
Taylor.
in this conversation. Absolutely
exactly.
none.
But that's what's fun about tiers.
There's
Draft the guys you
giant
like while
fat
still
head.
getting good value.
fat head right behind him. No,
No,
I think Taylor is amazing. So, I would love to see him eat this year. Just I'm not certain of what that whole thing's going to look like. And I think the other thing is good players on good teams. I think that's the other argument you can make for Saquon. I think the Eagles are going to be a very good team. We don't know what the Colts are going to be, and that's not a shot at Andrew. We don't know what my Broncos are going to be either, right?
Yeah.
We just don't really know. The Eagles should be a good team. So good players,
That's
good
why I
teams.
like Pacheco.
Yeah, and that's kind of the argument for Pacheco. I mean,
Yeah.
would he be in this tier if he played on, any of those bottom half teams? It's really a Chiefs argument, and just that there isn't really,
Yeah.
they didn't really get anything to push him out of the way, or they like him. They're just going to keep running with them. So
You just figured out the name of this tier, I think. This is good players on mostly good teams. Teams that we
Yeah.
think are going to be good.
Sure.
Even the Jags, even the Colts, I think are going to be good teams next year. Well, this year. We're here. It's this year. But these are all the number one running backs on what should be good offenses. And yeah, sure. Leave them all in the same tier. I think that's fine. I'll split it up later.
Okay, but now I'm contradicting myself. Okay, because if you're on the clock, all right, it's like the second round, third round. All right, let's go back to the shoe test. And you heard that Jahmyr Gibbs was on the board, and I took, who would it be, Isaiah Pacheco ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. Are you going to throw your shoe at me?
Yeah, Gibbs is closer to our tier 2 that we just had than he is to this tier, I think.
Jesse, would you throw your shoe at me if I took Gibbs over Isaiah Pacheco? Or, sorry, if I took Pacheco over Jahmyr Gibbs?
yes,
You'd huck your shoe at me. So I think that means, per the shoe hucking test, that Jahmyr Gibbs is at least in a tier above. It sounds like Jacob would put Kyron up there with him. So do we then take Gibbs and Kyron and put them together? Who else did you have in that? Tell me the difference between Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane.
me, I just think
Anyone.
Volume,
Bueller.
injuries.
it's that's almost a purely injury based thing.
Yeah.
And just I've seen Gibbs run between the tackles and be an effective college running back. Devon Achane was always kind of a gimmicky guy, even back
He
in the
ran
day.
between the tackles at A&M. You know it, mister. You watched that film.
Not much, not quite the same deal. So yeah, I don't know. I think if he thickened up like everybody said, and he stays healthy, he's going to be unbelievable. So again, this is risk reward. Like, where are you going with it? You talked about a little bit harder head situation too. I owned Jahmyr Gibbs last year as a rookie, and it was fun. It was fun. He's a fun player to watch, a fun player to own. And it started out the year, we're going, why are we not handing the ball more to this guy? And then they did, as the year went on. And I think they're going to love him this upcoming year. And yeah,
that's Gibbs being in this tier and not in the tier with Bijan and Brees. David Montgomery is the only reason.
So dare I say that we need to throw Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, and Devon Achane in a tier together? Is that next
that's not
tier down?
insane. That's not insane, but
I just think
again,
Travis and Saquon are close to
I'm
them.
not taking either of those. I'm not taking two of those three players, so that's why. But
Would you throw your
couldn't-
shoe at me?
No, not if you made a tier with them. Just I'm not taking those players. I'm not taking two of those players due to the risk.
Those aren't your cup of tea.
I think that's fair, and I think we're going to have players in tiers that we don't necessarily like, but I think they still belong in that tier.
Yeah,
We're doing
I'm not
a
saying they
team
don't belong
bonding
there.
exercise. We got to
Are
build
you
this
changing
together.
tiers right now?
I am. This is live.
Copying and pasting live.
I am
tier
working the Google
creation.
sheet. So this is a tier 4. We'll make a tier 3B because I don't want to throw off my numbers.
There you
so
go.
then that makes this. Oh, I have it in columns too, so this isn't working. So then that puts Saquon, Taylor, Henry, Etienne, and Pacheco in no order.
Well, my only other argument would be, why would ETN not be in the same tier as those other
He
three
is.
guys you just listed?
He is. Andrew just ignored me.
I mean,
Gibbs,
I'm really
Gibbs,
good at that.
Achane, Williams, and ETN, I think are,
Yeah.
those are your targets. I think ahead of those other guys.
I think Barkley's in that still, but I can settle.
I think Barkley's just the only reason I like those other ones more is the Jalen Hurts thing.
That's fair.
the only knock.
If you want to hear some crazy
good with
sauce, based on us doing that, we just found some massive draft values. Look at sleeper ADP. Off the board, it goes CMC, Bijan, Brees Hall, Gibbs. But then it's Jonathan Taylor, Barkley. You don't
Yeah,
get
Taylor's ADP is really high. I
Yeah.
saw him at number 4 on consensus ADP, so People
I
really
just think
like him.
The last time he was fully healthy, people were taking him as the RB1 overall, and people are probably still holding that in the back of their mind unrightfully. But Etienne's going as the RB11 on sleeper ADP.
Yeah, I think he's at a huge value right now.
Yeah, it's insane.
He's a target for me for sure.
Absolutely love that. So I like where these tiers kind of shook out because I kind of agree. Like Saquon, Taylor, Henry, and Pacheco all kind of feel like if they have huge touchdown seasons, that's their path. Like there is really no other path. They got to score a crap ton of touchdowns as well as yards, obviously. But then these other guys, Gibbs, Achane, Etienne, Kyron, on the back of a lot of work is to be expected or insane efficiency is likely. I kind of like that. So we got our tier 3 and our tier 3B. All right, so to recap for the listeners who can't see any of my Google Sheets that I'm making here, or Google Doc, I guess this is, I have Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Travis Etienne, Kyron Williams in tier 3. And then tier 3B, which is really tier 4, this won't be confusing, is Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco. I like that. That feels right. That feels right to me.
I'm into
Good work,
it.
gentlemen. This is like one of those team bonding exercises where you all have to like your hands are wrapped together and you have to like unwrap each other's hands.
Oh, it's gonna get harder here.
I'm
in a
just
second.
glad to be holding your hands.
Yeah, the trust falls pretty soon. Jacob's going to trust fall, and Andrew's not going to catch him here. I feel it.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
it
very-
happening
it's
in
coming.
this
It's
next
coming.
tier.
You're gonna have to hope that scary Browns elf behind you is gonna catch you because I ain't doing it. Because here we really get into the meat of it. I called this tier 4. All right, tier 4, volume heroes or zeros, and I really mean volume being the key. So this is where our RB dead zone really kicks off. Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs now with the Packers, James Cook with the Bills, Joe Mixon now with Texan, and Kenneth Walker. This is a combo of guys where I don't know if they'll get the volume, but if they get the volume they might get, they either such efficient runners or in such great offenses that they are going to finish top 10, potentially top 5. So this is still huge upside, guys. Jesse, right off the bat, does anything stand out to you on these guys?
I mean, probably the biggest one. Again, I follow this guy Steven at Fantasy Guides. He helps me win leagues.
Never heard
His
of him.
favorite running back in round 4 is Alvin Kamara. He still thinks there's a lot of value there. He still thinks there's usage, and if he stays healthy, I think that he could win that tier, if we call it that. As a longtime Joe Mixon owner, he's just fun to own. He always produces. He catches the ball out of the backfield, and he's going into a really fun offense. He should kind of just do what he's always done. You know, I don't. I think he'll
Just
kind of
maybe less receptions, but
maybe just as many too. I mean, they like throwing the ball, and it's not like C.J. Stroud won't check it down just because he's good at pushing the ball down the field. I think he's so close to Joe Burrow. That's what's interesting about that move for Joe Mixon, just lateral move quarterback-wise, right? Really good quarterback. He'll get him the ball, I think. You know, those other players, I'm just not quite as sure what we're going to get. I guess the James Cook thing is interesting because does he get more receptions because you've lost so many targets in the offseason with the Bills? I'm not a big Rashad White, Josh Jacobs, or Kenneth Walker guy at the moment, so I think Kamara, Cook, and Mixon are the ones that I would be maybe the most excited about in that tier, and it's the receptions thing. It's because, I'm going back to, I just hear Steven in the back of my brain, even when he's not here, and I know those guys are going to catch the ball.
yeah. I think this tier's good, Andrew.
Wow.
Oh.
I thought this would be the most hands thrown.
This was I thought the trust fall. He caught you. He caught you in the trust fall.
No, I think you could maybe argue. I think Kamara, I think, is clearly at the top of this list for us, but that offense, I mean, I don't
If
know
he
what
doesn't
we're-
have the exact
what are we expecting
outcome,
from the Saints?
if he does not get check downs like he did last year, he's worthless.
Yeah.
He's absolutely, and they have a new OC.
Yeah.
That's slightly worrying.
Yeah, see, these are big question mark guys because it's Josh Jacobs who's just getting large and inefficient, and maybe he's not going to get a ton of volume with Green Bay, and Green Bay is going to do to him what they always did to Aaron Jones, and he needs volume, and I just don't know if it's going to be as good as what we might hope it's going to be.
You know, I'm putting on a little weight now because I'm going to be a dad soon, and like sympathy weight. Is Josh Jacobs like just become a father or something? Like, is this I'll do the research. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
I
you
think
have to
it's
do the
an
research on that.
Alabama running back thing. I'm a little nervous. It's like
Getting chunky
Derrick
later.
Henry though looks good.
Eddie Lacy
actually,
peeks over with a cheeseburger.
Derrick Henry's okay.
now that you say that, he's kind of saving it. But some of those
Yeah.
other guys, it's like
Mark Ingram did.
Mark Ingram's jersey, the bare
Yeah.
midriff, it just kept creeping up a
Yeah.
little higher and higher.
Everyone
kinda
knows
like,
Eddie Lacy.
Yeah, Eddie Lacy's the one that we all think of for sure.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger Eddie.
Bet Trent Richardson's looking large nowadays. I
Oh
wonder.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Rashad White's a tough one because it's RB6 last year, and I feel like we're shoving him down here far in like the rankings, but
Because is he good at football?
he is not a
any
good running back.
No, he's not.
He's not a good running back, but he is going to get volume, and volume is more important than talent.
We assume, but like this is what takes a guy in the RB dead zone, like Rashad
Yeah.
White or Kamara. I'm so concerned about these guys, but absolutely gonna feel like an idiot if they're the RB5 next year because they just did the same thing as last year.
I think the guy I'm most concerned about doing that actually, and it's probably because I've talked about DK Metcalf before, but I think Kenneth Walker's a good running back and has really good breakaway speed and can really like just take the top off of defense. And I think their offense is going to be bad. Maybe Zach Charbonnet takes a lot of work. That's the concern with Kenneth Walker. He's not finished higher than the running back 18 is also another concern. He's missed a couple games both years he's been in the league. So he has red flags, but I do think he's in a good position to succeed and could be a low-end running back one. But again, we're talking about these concerns here. He belongs in this tier with this other set of guys that I think also have concerns.
That's why it's such a good name, Andrew. You did such a good job. Heroes or zeros, because there is some volatility in this group for sure.
Yeah.
One or two of these guys we're going to see jump up into that next grouping, right? So it's like, which one do you trust the most? Yeah, man, the Rashad White one is it is interesting, right? What is it about? Because I've liked him all along. Kenneth Walker I was super high on coming out of school. It's just I don't know what we're gonna get. There's a little bit of a. I think half those guys are going to be way lower than we think, and half those guys are going to be higher. So that's a tough one. You got to hit.
It was top 5 in attempts and did not crack 1,000 rushing yards.
Who was that?
3.64 a carry, Rashad White.
Oh yeah, no, he's not a good running back. And so then you have Kenneth Walker in that same tier, and it just seems blasphemous. You guys were just talking up his praises, and then go Ryan Grubb offense. Dylan freaking Johnson did not get drafted, and he was a prolific rusher in this offense. Like, think about them going with five down linemen, and you got Jason over there, and you got DK Metcalf, and you got Tyler Lockett, and you got one tight end split out off the
Noah
the
Fant,
lineman
you can
there.
say his name.
Noah Fant, forgot his name. Really couldn't because I couldn't think of it. And then you just have Kenneth Walker with all of that space. He's going to destroy the world if he gets. And what if he gets pass catching? What if Ryan Grubb comes in and says, "Dude, why'd you even draft this Zach Charbonnet guy?" And they just make him a workhorse. I think I want to push Kenneth Walker irresponsibly high because he's so freaking talented, and the fact that him and Rashad White are said the same breath just is absurd, but it's valid.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet is a good running back. Jesse, you liked him as a prospect, right?
I did too.
Yeah.
But he's not as good as Kenneth Walker.
Better pass catcher, yes, or at least showed it more in college.
Yes.
Yeah. So
he's not like a real, like, he's not like Jahmyr Gibbs. It just he was good at catching checkdowns.
Oh, geez, you jumped really high up the tier list. You don't have to compare him to Gibbs, but he's at least as good as Rashad White at catching the ball. So
you're not wrong. No, Rashad White was actually really good. He had like one of the highest target
really
shares I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd leave this tier alone, except for I actually want to bring one guy up into it, and I made this tier, but I couldn't move him up without permission.
Well,
Guys,
I think
you can't.
I think there's a case for a couple guys to move up into this tier. I think this is where, you called it the running back dead zone, and then you're still tearing them off a lot. This is where, which of these guys? Oh, I see you.
Oh, it's all the dead zone.
I see you doing a little copy and paste action right now.
That's me highlighting. It's James Conner.
Yeah.
No, he's in the right tier.
Why?
He can be at the
Okay.
top of the next tier, but he's in the right tier.
But he was the RB13 in points per game. Literally just off of like points per game, push that up. The number one most predictive stat of future success in the next year is points per game in the previous year, and he was the RB13. Like,
And
forget volume, forget projected volume. That's super predictive. This guy, the most predictive thing is points per game in the previous year, and he was the RB13. And the offense got better everywhere.
The most predictive thing for James Conner is he's never played a full season in the NFL.
But it'll be great when you have him. But it'll be awesome.
And he was RB19 2 years ago, RB18 last year. The points per game's great, but he played 13 games both of those years.
But
he misses games, and Trey Benson is a really good electric running back. And when he comes in for those few games that James Conner is going to inevitably miss, he's going to miss games. Benson's going to look really good.
No.
And I think it shakes things up in that backfield.
I highly disagree.
Also, he's 29, so you can't hate Derrick Henry too much and then like James Conner this much. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can, because the 229 goes up one number, and that's a 3, and that's really big. Jesse,
oh, man.
I'm off Trey Benson. All right, he's good. He's athletic. He doesn't have the refined skills to run a Drew Petzing, get north-south. It's not completely get north-south, but he's got that rookiness to him where he's not going to make the read in the hole when he needs to. Did you see something similar out of Trey Benson? 4.39 will
get him north-south pretty good.
He'll do 4 juke moves before he gets to the hole, and then Drew Petzing pulls him for being an idiot. Jesse, what do you think of Trey Benson being an immediate year-one impact?
I don't know. I am a guy that kind of refuses to bet against James Conner just because he's been – every time I think he's dead and buried, he just makes plays, and he's just a football player. And he was not fast coming out of school. He was coming off of cancer. Like it just did not seem like he was going to be anything special. And he's made a name for himself in the league, so he's a guy I tend to pull for. Trey Benson's a great running back. I think, the rookie running back thing is really interesting because one of them will break out, but we have no idea which one because so many of them are handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
They're all in handcuff situations. It's going to be which guy gets banged up. I do think Jacob has a point about Conner seems to miss time, and if you miss time and you give a guy like Trey Benson a little bit of leeway, he could jump in. My more glaring question with this, like I want you guys to answer for me, is like, why isn't DeAndre Swift rated higher?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I had the same question.
Okay, this is the next tier of guys we're talking about because there's no way you can look me in the face and tell me you're drafting James Conner over the other guys we mentioned or DeAndre Swift over those other guys we mentioned.
I have him ranked as such. Let me toss out tier 5 before I start saying more words that'll make Jacob finally take off that shoe and throw it at me in a medium hard way. So tier 5 that we're trying to pull James Conner up into, and maybe Swift, I labeled tier 5. Is this really your backfield? Is it worth the headache? But there is upside in all of these guys. So that's David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson, Raheem Mostert, and Jacob threw in there that I didn't have there originally, Brian Robinson Jr. So this is the group of guys we're talking about.
It's such an interesting group because, if you look at like Fantasy Pros or other websites, Ramondre Stevenson would be the next highest guy. I just don't really that gets me not excited at all. I don't know. I am just not excited by that pick. So I slide down and I do get excited about Aaron Jones catching checkdowns from either of those two quarterbacks who I don't know if either of them are going to be pushing the ball down the field very much. Sam Darnold especially, he's never been a great deep ball thrower. I just feel like he's going to get a ton of volume.
Thrower.
Right. of the ball, period. I love Najee Harris. I think he could be a breakout guy in this grouping. I think there's a lot of value there. But yeah, man, the DeAndre Swift one, I'm just kind of I'm still waiting for you guys to tell me why he's not in the same category as maybe even that next one up. Why isn't he at the top of this category?
No, I really like DeAndre Swift. I think we talked about him. I can't remember what episode it was that we talked about him, but he's never been worse than the running back 21. 15 is his highest, so he's right there in that sweet spot in 4 years. I think the worry with him is there's some other mouths in this offense that they're not bad running backs, and they're running backs that could take some volume. I guess that's the only worry with him, with Herbert and Johnson, with Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson. Those guys kind of both profile the same, and it's a rookie quarterback, and there's 3 really talented wide receivers on this team. So I think it's just a a mouths to feed situation for DeAndre Swift.
We're in the low risk area though, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like which of these guys could this to me is which guy is taking a swing pass and house calling it, right? Because he's the guy that's going to end up putting points on your board that week. And Swift and Aaron Jones are the two that I get the most excited about. David Montgomery, it's so touchdown dependent. I mean, he was amazing at that last year, right?
But he gets him, yeah.
And
you just know what David Montgomery is. I can't put him higher, and I can't put him lower. He's just this tier.
Very reliable. Ramondre Stevenson, boy, I worry about the Patriots. Just there's nothing, you know. You really want Drake May coming out of camp just looking lights out, and has not sounded that way.
Nope.
So it's like, and then we already talked about the wide receiver situation. I don't even know if I could name one on their team.
You know one, Jalen Polk. You know him,
Javon Baker.
Oh god, the rookies, right? Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
He's there. Demario Douglas.
God.
See, here's two reasons to be worried about. I guess three reasons to be worried about the Patriots. One is we just named their wide receivers. Just saying their names is a problem. New England was the second worst offense scoring last year, and they're playing behind the 28th ranked per PFF offensive line. That's a lot of bad things.
If you want a good fantasy running back and a bad offense, they need so much volume. And
Antonio Gibson's there.
Antonio Gibson is there, and we know what kind of specialist he is, and he's going to take passing volume away, and that is not what you want taken away from a guy in an offense that he needs all the work to be largely fantasy relevant. So,
and Jacob, look at the sign behind you. This is a guy coming from a Browns offense, so offensive coordinator. Talk about a headache with rotating backs. Like Nick Chubb always had a Hunt thorn in his side, so they're going to rotate. There just isn't going to be a 75% of snaps thing. So I really, actually, probably would kick Ramondre out of this tier. Maybe. I don't know.
I wouldn't just based off volume. I expect him to get volume. So, yeah, there's question marks in this tier with volume, but I do like Aaron Jones the most out of it. I do think James Conner belongs in this tier with these guys.
I think he's a tier above.
I don't think he's a tier above.
Okay, Kyler. Okay.
I don't see a big difference between Najee's volume and James Conner's volume.
Because there's an established good running back behind. We know Jalen Warren is a good running back that will split the backfield.
Najee's never had less than 1,000 yards rushing.
I don't care. Well, James Conner, it doesn't matter what he's always had 1,000 yards. He barely hit 1,000 yards, and we know Jalen Warren is going
he's
to
never
be
missed a game.
peeling off. Yeah, that's really cool. But
Yeah.
James
James
want
Conner
a guy?
misses games.
Okay. All right, hold on. I have their points per game written down here.
Points per game are great, but if the guy's not on the damn field, then
the only stat that matters is when this guy is in your lineup, is he scoring points and how many of them? And Najee Harris scored the 30th ranked points in points per game, and James Conner was 13th.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't say you were excited about having Najee in your lineup, but at least he's in your lineup instead of on your IR. So
13th.
That's it with Conner. He's good. He's going to be good for fantasy, but he's going to miss games. It's got to drop him down.
I think I have James Conner ranked higher than Joe Mixon.
I mean,
I might be wrong.
there's not many tiers below this, though. You know, like
I didn't think anymore.
There's a big gap after this.
We are in the if you haven't taken a running back until now, you're in big trouble, right? You know, so zero running back. Which of these guys is going to get you points? I don't know. I like DeAndre Smith and Aaron Jones. And
there's
Najee
a couple
Harris
guys that could jump in here. I'll mention like Zamir White and Javonte Williams and Jonathan Brooks if he's not missing too much time.
Yeah.
And then you can even throw in whichever Bengals running back you like the most, but we start to see a big drop off here. We don't know what's going on in Cleveland. Dallas, we don't really know either. There's too much going on in those backfields that we just don't know. Too much uncertainty. You can take your shots late, but I think there's a clear drop off and what kind of volume you're getting guaranteed after these guys.
We'll see if it reigns true, but I think it's criminal that Javonte, goes this far down the list without being mentioned. I think that I think he could have a big rebound season. Devin Singletary, we are contractually obligated to make sure
best running back in the league.
That he is a good running back,
best,
and he is leading a backfield. He's down the list. Why not take a shot on him? If you could pair Jalen Warren and Najee Harris together, I don't mind that late in the draft.
Yeah.
I'll tell you just from our fearless leader, round 5 he really likes Aaron Jones. Round 6 he likes David Montgomery. Round 7, he likes Najee Harris, and round 8, he likes Jalen Warren. So, he's not opposed to attaching those two Pittsburgh running backs together late in your draft too.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention a Chargers running back, which we know they are going to run the ball a lot, and they're going to run it well, but who in the hell is going to emerge there? We just don't know.
I have no idea.
It's at least Gus Edwards, and then plus whatever else something. Like Gus Edwards, minimum 40% of the carries.
Yeah.
I have no idea where the rest goes.
I think it's interesting because I think that this is the tier. You don't have a name for this tier, but this could be the dynasty tier where you own the entire backfield because they're all super cheap.
Yeah.
And some like just have
BOGO,
Ford and
buy
Chubb
one, get
and
one.
all of those. Yeah, it is a
Zamir
BOGO
White.
situation. Yeah, because I mean that's how it was for me in dynasty. It's like, well, one of these Ravens. I'm thinking Ravens because Gus Bus was always just this consistent Raven. One of these Chargers running backs is going to do well. I just feel like they improve the offensive line. That is Harbaugh's identity. Like he's going to want to run the football.
Yeah.
He needs that Blake Corum kind of lead guy that he can lean on. And I have no idea which of those guys it's going to be. So is that an area I'm looking at in redraft? Am I looking at a Chargers running back in redraft? No, I think that's a wasted draft pick. But in Dynasty, when they're that cheap, and you have, we play in Dynasty League where we have these massive benches, it's like, well, I'm just going to stockpile the whole thing, stockpile every Brown running back. I mean, why not? Just put Zamir White in at the very end of it. The only thing is that is interesting is Zamir White actually is pulling a ton of dynasty value, and look how far down the list we are, before we haven't even added him to a tier yet. So that's an interesting one. I think, that's another bad team kind of thing. I think the Raiders are not going to be very good, and maybe that's the Javonte Williams argument too. I don't think the Broncos are going to be anything special, so maybe you're avoiding him because of that. But I don't know, man. I can't get Bucky Irving out of my head with Javonte Williams. I know Bo Nix is going to get him the ball, and I can't get Alvin Kamara out of my head either. I know that Peyton is going to try and get his running backs the ball. That's what he does.
Yeah, you just got to stay on the field.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention Raheem Mostert's name, and he was the RB4
I don't think he belongs in this tier, but
Would you push him up?
No, I would push him down.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's disrespectful. Why you hate old people, Jacob?
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a you take Achane early, you take Mostert late.
Yeah.
I think it's a handcuff situation where Achane gets banged up, like he's going to be really good. So, yeah, he's just not that exciting.
Yeah, we're knocking Monty a bunch for liking Gibbs, and we like Achane a lot, and it just feels like Mostert's not getting knocked down enough. I don't trust him to be on the field for a full season. It doesn't happen. He was great last year, though, but 18 touchdowns. That is not going to happen again.
Yeah, but what if he gets 15?
Actually,
what if
21 touchdowns. Sorry, I just counted rushing.
What if he gets 13 touchdowns next year? He's going to be the RB 15. Mm-hmm. That's not RB5. That's a long drop, but then he still pays off his ADP by a long shot. I think Raheem Mostert and David Montgomery are just the same situation. They're the same prototype, and I think they belong in the same tier together for that reason.
I think that's fair. When you're drafting guys this late, especially running backs, you want as much upside as possible. And if Devon Achane or Jahmyr Gibbs go down, David Montgomery and Raheem Mostert are running back ones.
Dan Campbell loves David Montgomery.
Yeah, he is a top 5 running back if Jahmyr Gibbs goes down. So
David Montgomery was the best man at Dan Campbell's wedding. David Montgomery was the firstborn son of Dan Campbell. These are all true facts. Any last second lobs you guys want to toss out here for a move up, move down, or a shout out?
We didn't even talk about the running back 14 from last year. Is he worth mentioning?
Which one are you talking about?
That would be Mr. Tony P.
Oh, Tony Pollard. Co-running back 1 on the Tennessee Titans with a bad O-line and Will Levis. Okay, so I'm actually kind of in. I think the Tennessee Titans have really turned around their offensive line. They invested a ton into it, and they've
invested a lot everywhere.
They have the Browns offensive line coach coming in who's just known for being Bill Callahan, known for being the best offensive line coach in the business, who makes everything in Cleveland for years cleaned up, looking great. I really think they're going to run the ball a ton. I just don't think Tony Pollard can vault himself into RB1 territory. I don't think it's on the table, whereas you could say any one of the guys in this tier could be an RB1.
Yep, I think that's fair.
Maybe not Ramondre Stevenson.
No, probably not Ramondre, unless he gets James Robinson level workload, which we saw that happen in a bad Jags offense, and he was very good for fantasy, but he got so much volume, so it can happen, but you're banking on outliers.
Jesse, any last second?
I don't know. It's not like I hate the Tennessee Titans.
I think you do.
I just don't know which Tennessee Titan I'm going to draft this year. I don't
Calvin
think,
Ridley.
I don't know. I don't think I'm touching any Tennessee Titans. I think
Calvin Ridley is a good value.
Just staying away.
We'll talk about him next episode.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Wide receiver tiers. Are we going to do that next, Andrew?
I'm absolutely in. I want to keep going through these. I like getting to yell at you guys and talk out these thoughts, because I will be sitting here in my recliner. I got a nice recliner that we put in a corner of our room because I'm gonna have a kid on the way, and then you can like feed the kid in a recliner. It's the best.
Oh, that's
chair.
Smart. Did somebody tell you?
You got
to
a
do
TV in front of that?
Yeah.
No, actually, it's in the corner, not facing the TV, because I couldn't convince my wife to put it. Our living room is awkwardly situated where that recliner would be so ugly if it was anywhere where the TV could see.
You just need a second
Andrew,
TV. Simple problem to fix.
I got a thing for you, bro. I'll have to send it to you. I seen it on Instagram, and then now I have it like in my wish list on Amazon. It's a TV that's on a stand, a rolling stand, and you can just roll it around wherever you want. It's like a little
it's like
24-inch.
what you would see in a classroom type.
Yeah, that's just an AV card.
Dude, I gotta send this to you guys. I didn't even know this was a thing. It's like, it's legit. And if I was doing the parenting thing all over again, you can't. You're like never in one space for very long. You like can't get comfortable. You'll be pinned down and you won't have the remote control. So yeah, man, you just need one of these TVs you can kind of wheel with you wherever you go. It's like your IV bag, right? It's just like right next to you.
And we've gone off the rails.
Put that football in my veins. That's what I need to give me my energy.
That is
I was just watching some Thanksgiving football from last year on Rewind, so it's always coursing through my veins. Yeah. So I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, no, I'm always sitting here. I sit here with my rankings, and these are the thoughts that go through my head. So, gentlemen, thank you for hearing my irrational love for James Conner, why DeAndre Swift isn't higher, and why Kenneth Walker might be the RB1 overall next year. These are the thoughts that go through my head that should never come out on a podcast, but they just have. As we've said, next week we're going to do something similar. I'll probably go through wide receivers or quarterbacks. We'll decide what we're doing there. And you guys in the comments, wherever you are, DM Steven on Instagram if you're listening on the podcast. Get in and tell us where we messed up, because guarantee we messed up somewhere, and we need rational thinking, because we just need to know if you would have thrown our shoe at us, and Jesse's sending me links to this TV.
Yeah, man, it's called a LG Stand By Me. That's what come on, Andrew. You need to have your wife get that for you. You're going to be a dad soon.
I got to remember that. I should have cashed in that one on Father's Day. That TV will stand by me, and we'll stand by you guys all season as we go through it. Follow Fantasy Guides at Fantasy Guides on Instagram. Go get you a draft guide. Guys, this draft guide is so comprehensive. You hear us throwing out stupid stats and random summaries that you're never going to remember because you're in your car and you can't write them down because that'd be dangerous. Don't do it. But now they're all collected on this Fantasy Guides draft guide. Go get it. It's cheap. It's easy. Or go play Underdog Football. Use our promo code GUIDES, GUIDES, and get you a free draft guide. And also play Underdog Football, which is absolutely incredible. Follow Jacob at FG Rhodes. Wait, no, at Rhodes.
Just go to the Fantasy Guides main page. I'll be there.
I had it down so well for a long time. And then follow Jesse at Debbie Rookie Watch. We'll be coming at you guys. Please keep an ear out for us during the regular season. We're going to be rolling 3 or 4 pods out a week over various content. Make sure you're paying attention for that. Gentlemen, say goodbye to the friends at home.
Peace.